on my lane, you all on my lane. You ain't overlooked, so get out the way. I gave you the book, I gave you the game. The boy gotta cook, the boy got a flame, Serving in the kitchen like you Nino. Plenty pitching, whipping different flavors like a bistro. Kicking, dipping, flipping, keep it hunting like a C note. Switching, keep it pimping every single place that he go. I got it. Lathan got the flame, Lathan got the flame. Boy, you know the name, get up out the way. Lathan got the flame, Lathan got the flame. Stay up out the kitchen if you ain't the one that's whipping, huh? Hey, yo, Lathan, man, cook them boys up something real quick, man.
What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to my channel. Now today we got the most incredible Philly cheesesteak toast. So the first step we're gonna do is we're gonna get our onion together. And we're gonna slice this onion very thin and julienne. So once you get that onion sliced up, and I mean you can do it thick if you want, but I like mine kind of thin, especially going with this delicious flank steak that we have and these peppers. So go ahead and get your onion sliced super thin, or however you like it. You can dice it, and we'll go ahead and slice our bell pepper too. And like I told you, I use the top of my bell peppers for other recipes, whether if it's pico de gallo, which people don't really like bell peppers and pico de gallo, or whether if it's like Philly cheesesteak, I use those peppers in that. Next, we got our flank steak, and that's cut thin as well. I popped it in the freezer and cut it thin. If you need help on cutting a flank steak, I'll link my video where I did the beef and broccoli down below, and I'll show you exactly how I cut the flank steak. But once you get that cut and set aside, you got our bell peppers, onions, and our flank steak set aside. We're gonna get a little butter in a cast iron skillet, and we're gonna begin to toast our toast. Now for this toast, since I did the French toast video and I used sourdough for that recipe, I just went ahead and used sourdough for this recipe. But in a perfect world, I probably would have used something like a baguette or something, but since we had sourdough in hand, I used sourdough. So go ahead and get that sourdough toasted off on both sides. And you want to get this good toast on this bread because you're finna pop this delicious steak on this bread that is kind of moist. And if you don't get a good toast on this bread, it's going to be soggy. And that's why I said in a perfect world, I would have used like a baguette. But if you toast this sourdough just right, it'll be perfect for that. So we're going to get our sourdough toasted on both sides. Don't burn it, so let's toast it at a medium-low heat, but let's get a good toast onto this bread. Once we get this bread toasted and flipped, we're going to go ahead and layer on our cheese. Now you can use whatever cheese you like. Traditionally in cheesesteaks in Philadelphia, they use Cheese Whiz, but I didn't want to use Cheese Whiz today. And a lot of people use provolone, but I wanted to kind of spice it up a little bit, so I went on with some Swiss. And also I went on with the Swiss too because I wanted to see the meat peek through those holes. So once we get to this step, we're gonna pop our cheese on our bread. We're gonna set it aside, and this bread is gonna go in a broiler when we get ready to begin to dress the steak on the bread. But I put that on there this way because it'll give us a little layer of a moisture barrier between the steak and the bread. So once we got that all situated, we're gonna go on with our peppers and onions. Make sure you throw a good splash of salt and pepper onto those peppers and onions just to draw out that moisture and help them caramelize a little bit quicker. But we're not looking for a sweet caramelization. We're just looking to get these things sauteed because you don't want that sweet note when it comes to Phillies. You just want some good sauteed onions and peppers. You want them to keep their original flavor and integrity almost. So we're gonna, with a good splash of salt and some pepper, and then we're gonna get these things sauteed up. And we're not gonna leave them in the pan when we do our beef. We're gonna pop them out and then pop them back into the pan. So you can cook these pretty much all the way that you wanted to cook. So yeah, just make sure you get those all sauteed up, all delicious. And you see it's beginning to really brown a little bit because of that salt that we added. It helped dry some of that moisture in these vegetables, and that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to get some good color on there because that color is flavor, and mixed with those Philly cheesesteaks, you're gonna be in flavor paradise. So once you get these all situated like this, go ahead and get your spatula or whatever you want to use, spoon, and begin to pull those peppers and onions out of this pan. And that little fun that the peppers and onions leave into the pan is gonna be added onto the steak. So it's almost like you're sauteing the steak and peppers and onions just from the little residue that the peppers and onions left. And then we're gonna go on with a little bit more oil. And make sure your pan is screaming hot at this point, because you want to get a good sear on this meat, and you don't want it to steam. You want it to like pretty much saute. So we'll get our meat in the pan, and that's why I use the cast iron, because I'm gonna probably pop all this meat into this cast iron. But if you got a problem with overcrowding, just do it in steps. But it's a flank steak, so I went ahead and just popped it all in there. Added some salt and pepper as well. You can add season all or your favorite seasoning, whatever seasoning you like to use with your Phillies, but I'm pretty good with salt and pepper. And I'm gonna get this thing all sauteed up. So once that meat get all good and brown, I'm just gonna continue to cook it through. Philly cheesesteaks, you usually cook that to well done, not medium well or medium rare. And that's why I cut the flank steak really thin and on the bias against the grain, because it'll stay tender and juicy cooking it this way, especially since we're gonna up cook it. So once that meat gets to the point where you like it, all delicious, you go ahead and begin to pop in your peppers and onions. And if you wanted to, you can also add mushrooms to this dish. I didn't think about that, but in a perfect world, if I can go back, I would have added some mushrooms to this dish. Mushrooms just set it off a lot more perfect. I like mushrooms in my Philly cheesesteak. But going on with our peppers and onions, and like I said, the peppers and onions are already cooked to the perfection that you wanted to cook that. So you just stirring them in there, just getting them back warm, and you're gonna be ready to play here soon. At this point, you could begin to go ahead and throw your toast into that broiler. You shouldn't have to leave it in there enough for like a minute or two, especially if it's on high. And remember, do not burn the cheese or the bread. You just pop it in there. You're just popping it in there to melt the cheese. So once that cheese is melted, get that on the cutting board. And then we're gonna begin to put our steak onto this toast. Like I said, this is a Philly cheesesteak toast, or an open face Philly cheesesteak sandwich. So pop how much you want on there. So go ahead and get our delicious meat and pepper mixture popped on there. And if you wanted to, you can add mayo to the bread, or your favorite condiments. Pretty much up to you. I'll leave that up to you guys. But I didn't do that. The meat was seared and seasoned, delicious, and also it was juicy. So I didn't feel the need a condiment. But if you would like a condiment, just add it on there. It's pretty much up to you. Once you get that meat topped on that bread how you like it, go ahead and throw the remaining peppers and onions on there. And then we're gonna begin to throw the cheese on there and layer the cheese. So like I said, one person need one toast, because this is like a humongous serving. So you don't need two toasts. Actually, you can probably split a toast in half, and that'll get you taken care of. But we're gonna go ahead and pop that on to our broiler lined baking sheet again, and then we're gonna go ahead and pop the cheese on there. So I'm doing 2 pieces just so we can shingle it, so the entire exterior of the Philly cheesesteak open face sandwich will be covered in cheese. And I'm gonna pop that into a broiler that's on high, and just leave that door cracked on that broiler so you don't burn this. But it should stay in there for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Once it's done, I went ahead and threw some parsley on there, because you guys like to see parsley, that pop of green. It's just very vibrant for the eye, and give it a good appeal, a good sandwich appeal, if I would say. But there you have it, man, the most incredible Philly cheesesteak toast. Now we're gonna kind of turn it sideways just to make it look a lot more eye appealing. But there you have it, man, the most incredible Philly cheesesteak toast. Use flank steak that we had left over from the beef and broccoli. Very good. I mean, oh my goodness. You guys have to try this and taste it, and let me know what you think about it. But then we got Swiss cheese. Like I said, you can use provolone, you can use cheese whiz, whatever cheese you want to use. Heck, you can even use cheddar or American. It's pretty much up to you, man. I'm not gonna judge you. But this is the most incredible toast you'll ever have in your life. Philly cheesesteak toast. I got another Philly cheesesteak video where I went more traditional with it, and I'll leave that in the description box down below. And it's pretty much up to you if you want to follow that recipe or this recipe. And also I will leave the beef and broccoli so you can figure out how to cut that flank steak But there you have it, man. The most incredible Philly cheesesteak toast. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Philly cheesesteak toast from the Bistro. I'm out.